You're listening to Crushing Club Marketing, a podcast for progressive club leaders ready to increase their club's revenue. The time for change begins right now.
What if finding your ideal golf club were like online dating? You get matched with the club that's right for you based on location, commonalities, and shared interests. It's the concept behind online service Golf Life Navigators, and the business has revolutionized the way members are finding the perfect club to join. In this episode of Crushing Club Marketing, we talk with Golf Life Navigators co-founder and CEO Jason Becker, who shares valuable insight from their matching process and how it can help club marketers position themselves to potential members.
Jason, thanks so much for being with us today.
Thanks. I appreciate it. Look forward to having a good conversation about the club industry.
Yeah, it's really interesting. Golf Life Navigators, the industry, as you mentioned, is very interesting, but also Golf Life Navigators. Tell it for people who aren't familiar with Golf Life Navigators, tell us a little bit about your company.
We started as grassroots PGA professionals, membership directors, and general managers back 3 years ago after watching a significant void in the process for consumers locating the ideal private golf club setting for them in Florida. And as you know, there's roughly 600 private club options across the state, 157 here in my little area of Southwest Florida. And so I was always really curious how the consumers were filtering those, because no two clubs are alike in terms of cultures or price points or location. And so discovered this. I reached out to some members up north through my PGA colleagues who were about to transition to Florida. And they all had the same two reliances. They were relying on their peers to help with the filtration, and they were reliant on the internet. And to the average 61-year-old I was talking to, the internet was way too confusing and overwhelming to try to decipher. And a lot of the club's websites weren't necessarily kept up to speed, couldn't really give good detail on the club's culture and amenities. And then their friends, I think that the consumer just is so much savvier today than they were 30 years ago. You know, they want more or they're less, or don't want to live necessarily next to their neighbors from the north. Mm-hmm. And so everyone would say, you know, you'll love my club, it's the best, no reason to go anywhere else. And consumers, with the amount of information that's out there in the world now, they're just a little bit more, you know, savvier to dig in deeper to find out, you know, it's going to be probably one of the biggest buying decisions you're ever going to make as a consumer. And so the fact that there was no program in place to help with that it still blows my mind today.
So when you talk about the consumers become more savvy, or the potential club members become more savvy, can you just help, especially for club marketers and club managers who maybe are clinging to a more traditional approach to their marketing? Can you give some perspective, Jason, as to when you say savvy, what does that mean? Like, what did they used to look like maybe, and what does that prospect look like today?
Well, there's two things that are two answers to that question. The first one is that in the late 80s, when a lot of these clubs were being developed, a lot of them centered around real estate, the big real estate developers in the world, WCI, Lennar, Pulte, will tell you that then they have 80 to 85% conversion rates of new home buyer would be a golf member. And so that was a great thing for the golf clubs. People were playing golf 4 or 5 days a week. The club is very healthy. As we all know in the club industry, on the balance sheet, golf is really the only revenue driver. Well, if you ask those same developers today what their conversion rates are of new home buyer to golf member, they would tell you 15 to 20%. So when you do the math on that and you're saying, okay, only 15 or 20% of my members who are coming in are going to be golf members, where are we going to get the other revenue from? Is it going to come from tennis? Is it going to come from food and beverage? And those are very tough to get revenue from. So I've kind of gone on record lately of saying that I really believe that the golf member is on the endangered species list, that it's not that golf is dying by any means. I just think that tips are seeing that people are doing more outside of golf. They're going to play it 1 to 2 days a week, but health and wellness, physical activity, longevity of happy living is all way more important than it was back 30 years ago, it seems, to the consumer. The second answer to that question is that what I was seeing doing the case studies is that a lot of consumers were building Excel sheets. They had all of this research data that they were trying to pull from internet websites, cold calling clubs, gathering information. And it still wasn't sufficient enough to make a decision of, okay, is it worth it for us to fly into Palm Beach County and visit these 3 or 4 clubs? Do we know enough about them to do that?
Mm-hmm.
And so between those two things, the consumer is not only changed dynamically in what their wants and needs are, but the access to information out there is so abundant with the internet that it gives them a kind of a leg up on their travels.
Yeah. So, how much of this? So, Golf Life Navigators is many ways. Like the first time I heard of it, it's like Match.com
Mm-hmm.
for people who are looking for the club that's right for them.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, is that? Yeah. Go ahead.
Well, I was say it. We got compared by Golf Magazine as eHarmony meets Zillow for golf back 2 years ago, and that was pretty cool. It was flattering. I don't think that we realized at that time that how accurate that was, because we didn't invent the algorithm until this time last year. So for 2 years, we were doing everything very interpersonal, with on the phone consultations, meeting with clients, taking them to clubs, introducing them to the membership directors. But as hundreds and hundreds of people are calling us, you just run out of humans to facilitate that. So when we shifted to the technology, before we built out the Pro Guide and the questionnaire, we thought, okay, what's Match.com doing and what's eHarmony doing in terms of how they're filtering, different choices for consumers, and that's really stuck with us since the launch of the algorithm.
All right, so let's walk through this. So you talk about the Pro Guide and the questionnaire. So for people that are unfamiliar with how you're set up, you go to let's talk about it. I go and I Google Golf Life Navigators. I come to your website, and what happens?
Basically, you go right to the Pro Guide. So the Pro Guide is our spokesperson is Peter Jacobson. He's on there. He kind of gives you a 30-second flavor of what to expect.
Former tour player, PGA Tour player, great personality, funny guy.
Oh yeah, NBC every Sunday.
Yeah, got it.
Yeah, and so there's that method, but primarily the marketing angle that we've taken is that we market through the state golf associations. So to give you an example, Golf Association of Philadelphia, we can send out an e-blast to their 75,000 members. They get their handicap revisions every month, and talk about, if you're tired of these Philadelphia winners and you've thought about Florida or Arizona or these other Sunbelt markets, here's a free tool that you can use to filter and find your best match private club community in an effort to save time and money and get right to it. And so that is wildly accepted among consumers.
For sure. But I want to actually just kind of walk through the tool to so that people can get a sense for what actually happened. So I go to the website. The first thing aside from Peter Jacobson and his, the video there is you plug in the state or the area or region that you're interested in. Right now, it looks like, how many states is Golf Life Navigators using?
We're in Florida, Arizona, and the Carolinas. We'll be in Palm Springs, California, Texas, and Atlanta toward the end of this year. We're just getting those clubs into the algorithm itself. So right now it's those 4 primary states.
Yeah.
The consumer would have to know ahead of time where, in terms of location, that's where they wanted to start, because that's one of the main hard filters of the algorithm. So hopefully the consumer would know the differences between Palm Beach County or Naples, Orlando versus Tallahassee. If not, that's when they can certainly talk to one of our local PGA professionals and get kind of a good Switzerland view of the different marketplaces and maybe help them in that choice.
So the first thing, you're going to select the area that you're interested in finding a club. So I'm interested in I'm thinking about buying a home in Naples, or I might be moving there, or might be retiring there, whatever the case might be. And then it walks you through a series of questions.
Hmm.
Talk about the questions and the type of information that you're trying to pull from that website visitor.
Well, we being grassroots and being in that part of the industry, one thing that we know is that information is key to selling anything, and in particular, to you're trying to sell club memberships to a prospective member. So, from the consumer side of the spectrum, what we're trying to do is filter through location, budget, amenities. Certain things on the golf operation, such as you want to be able to walk the golf course, or you're looking for a ladies invitational, etc., that would filter through the algorithm. But on the flip side, for the clubs, what we want to do is not only introduce them to the people that were the right match to them, but give them the information that these folks are saying is important to them. So when a membership director or club official gets a pro guide that says, Mrs. Mary Wilson was matched up to you today, here are all her golf expectations. She is a tennis player. Her social programs include she's into volunteerism, animals, beach, wine tasting, all
Yeah.
conversation starters for the club official to use when they call Mrs. Wilson to invite her to the club.
Right.
So
So that's the eHarmony part of it. It's
it
like,
is. Yeah.
matching you up and saying,
Yep.
right? The matchmaking part of it.
Exactly.
And to this date, how many people have worked through Golf Life Navigators to find a club?
We've had 7,200 people take the pro guide. In terms of number of matches, each person's on average matched to 5 clubs, so roughly 35,000 matches. Our clubs that are in our program are getting between 10 and 20 prospective members a month that are coming
Wow.
through, just getting matched up. And I think that what we've found here is that we're not necessarily a function that, or a tool that a club would use to get new members, but more or less to expose themselves to the right member. We can't sell that membership for you, but we can certainly get them to your door, and then your conversion rate should be very high with the amount of information you get.
Yeah, I mean, you are not going to go through, and I went through the process to get a sense for Golf Life Navigators, and you're not going to go through that process unless you are interested in understanding what your options are. So I would imagine, I mean, yeah, you could do it just for fun, but there is some intent. So really, like you're saying, for the club marketer or the general manager, whoever is screening those leads when they come in, these are people who have an intent to become a member, which is awesome.
Hmm. Oh yeah, I mean, it takes the consumer 12 to 15 minutes to complete, and then they put all their contact information in, and consumers wouldn't sit there for 12 or 15 minutes if they weren't serious. And so, by getting that, all that data aggregated and getting it into a readable form and getting it right to the club so they can reach out and make contact, it's just a really, really cool scenario, and something that has never been available for not only consumers but for the clubs themselves
I mean,
to get
let's just,
connected.
yeah, I mean, and I don't want to, I mean, you're nice enough to come on and talk about Golf Life Navigators, but I think
Hmm.
that the idea behind it is really cool. So, I mean, and I don't want to understate the information that you're gathering in that. So, if you're listening and you're going, okay, this sounds really remarkable, but you're, like you said, 12 to 15 minutes for the questionnaire, and you might be thinking, if you're listening, going, well, gosh, is someone really going to do that? And absolutely. If you're
Hmm.
interested in joining a private club, the questions that you guys ask are really, really relevant. And then all of a sudden, you see in answering questions. So, to give you an example, like you were saying, Jason, it's almost like, what kind of golf experience do you want? Well, first of all, what kind of membership, right? Full,
Sure.
national, junior, a number of different membership options. And then when you start getting into it, it's like, what kind of golf experience do you want? Whether that's playing in events, men's events, women's events, couples, and all of a sudden you start to, at least when I was doing it, I'm like, yeah, this is interesting. It's making me think about really what that looks like. And then you go off into some of the other parts of the experience that I think are so valuable too, like the other amenities, whether it's the food and your dining experiences, whether it's tennis, whether it's some of those other things. And you were saying that you're finding that golf for a lot of people isn't really the primary driver. from what
No,
you've learned.
yeah, it's not. There's real estate is big. 68% of the people that complete our Pro Guide are saying that they're combining their search efforts with the right home. So that's a biggie. I can't scream it out loud enough to the clubs is to work closely with those who are selling real estate in your communities, because that decision process is might fall on that real estate agent. And if you don't have a good relationship with them, you could lose out on a member. Um, uh, 49% of people don't want to live in a gated golf community.
Mm.
That's a big deal because uh, if the club doesn't have a non-residential membership program, we should certainly talk about it at the next board meeting, because this is again what the future is telling us, and it's something that the industry has never had. And so, what we try to do for our showcase clubs is every quarter we send them a report on all of the aggregated data of consumers coming into their marketplace and what they're saying. And the clubs love it because when they're able to go into a board meeting and say, look at it, we're seeing that 94% of people want casual dining over formal dining. And 22% of people want a dog park at the club to
Oh
take
my
their
gosh.
pet. I mean,
Right.
little things like that you would never have really at a board, or could validate an assumption that the board's thinking about implementing. Uh, yeah, I get most excited about the data end of all this.
Yeah. So let's dive into that a little bit. What's been the most, I guess, surprising thing that you have realized in gathering the data, or, what have you learned that is just would totally contradict what someone might think to be true about how people evaluate clubs?
So the number one thing the consumers are telling us, both male and female, is the most important to them in terms of external motivation. So external things would be the physical properties of the club, such as the golf, the dining, wellness, landscaping, etc. Beauty of landscaping is the number one thing by far. And
Really?
so what that tells us is that the from the consumer side, they obviously want to invest in a club community or an area that has is went overboard in aesthetics. It's very pretty here. I feel good here. My friends and family are going to love it when they see that big fountain, in the front of
Yeah.
the entry point. Uh, on the other side of the spectrum, there is the information that a club would need when they're determining whether to build that $1 million bridge into the community or the big fountain out front. The
Mm.
beauty of landscaping is tremendously important. In that same list, golf amenities is ranked number 3. So here we are, a golf organization who target golf enthusiasts who play 3 to 4 days a week, average handicap of around 15, and golf is not the most important thing to them in terms of motivation.
Very-
It's very eye opening stuff.
Yeah, that's interesting. I mean, I can't believe the landscaping stuff.
Yeah.
That's really shocking. So, in your data, some of the information that you collect are things like, well, male or female, the age range. So you get a decent snapshot of a demographic. Are you finding, for at least for Golf Life Navigators, what is the average age of the 7,200 people so far?
Yes, sir.
What's the
Average age is 58. So
50?
58, the average person has a 13-month transition time frame.
Okay.
So which kind of makes sense with typical retirement ages. 51% of people are planning to relocate, which is big for the North. When
Mhm.
you're talking about 51% of the population moving completely out of states like Illinois, New York, with high, state income tax rates. Florida is very generous, as we all know.
Yeah.
So those are the type of demographics that are really interesting. I can tell you that the average initiation budget in terms of median is $31,000.
Okay.
Average dues budget is a little under $9,000 annually for
Okay.
dues.
Yeah.
And granted, there's segments of people on both ends of that spectrum, but that's the median.
And you said that, and that's what the clubs are asking for, not what people are saying that they're willing to pay. Is that correct?
No, that's what the consumers are saying. That's
Okay.
on average, that's what their budget is.
Got it. So if you're listening, one of the things it asks is, what would you be willing to pay for initiation? What would you be willing to pay annually for that membership?
Mm-hmm.
So you're really doing a great job of qualifying people. You're hand delivering really, really great leads, which is so cool.
Sure.
58 years old on average, more men than women who are using the tool.
Yeah, it's on average 80% male, 8% female, and then 12% say they do it with each other in terms of completing it with their spouse. So I will argue though that because of the way the data reads with beauty of landscaping and some of the other socialization stats that are coming out of this, is that if the male is completing it, he's certainly answering it on behalf of what his wife might think.
Hmm.
So that number could be a little skewed. I think that if it was really heavily male driven, we wouldn't see some of the data that we are.
Yeah, that wouldn't surprise me one bit, right? Based on what we know about how those decisions
Oh
are
yeah.
typically being made. Um, does 58 seem older than what you would expect as an average age? I mean, and I guess the reason I say that is that you'll hear some people within the club industry say, our members are older, our prospects aren't online, they're not using the internet in that way, we have to do more traditional things.
hmm
Um, what's your take on that, on 58 years old, going online to use Golf Life Navigators, and what should that maybe tell club managers about their prospective members?
Well, I think it's a really positive thing for the club industry. I think the average age at a club in Florida is 71. So in terms of the Sun Belt where we're heavily focused in right now, a 58-year-old new member is like a piece of gold in terms of spending money at the club, spending time at the club, utilizing the resources. The problem is that I don't envy general managers on this. Is you've really managing two segments of people from the 71 plussers to the 58 to 70-year-olds, and it's two different expectations of the club, and two different viewpoints in how the club should be ran. So there's a lot of, I'm sure, integration there that goes from both sides. But if you asked me 2 years ago if I thought this average age would be right, I would have told you I guess it would have been a little young. I thought that our average client would be 64, 65, just
Interesting.
just because of what happened in 2010 and people losing a good portion of their 401ks and taking a couple more years to regroup before they could retire. So I'm kind of surprised that it's as low as it is right now at 58.
Do you have a sense for the percentage of people who are using it that are under, say, 40 years old?
Yeah, it's very small. I would say it's roughly 4 or 5%
Okay. Yeah.
that we would have Gen Xers or millennials using the Pro Guide.
Yeah. That's really interesting. The from what you've seen, there's a lot of conversation around adapting amenities for the millennials, right? I mean, but
Mhm.
what you're saying is that it's a very small percentage of people under 40 who are taking the time to, um, or who have gone through the process with the Pro Guide. But um, that said, you have talked about the dog park at the clubs and some of the other amenities. How urgent do you think it is that clubs are going to need to adapt? I mean, if it's still predominantly a Gen X to baby boomer type crowd, how important do you think that is? And just you've got such interesting data.
Sure.
Uh,
Well, I think it's obviously key to start posturing for it. And I say that by, a lot of the clubs in Florida in particular, probably Arizona, I'd imagine, are going to go through capital enhancements in the next 5 to 6 years. And, there's a club in Naples that just spent $36 million enhancing their facilities to prepare for the future. And so, does the 71-year-old member necessarily want to vote yes on that assessment? Probably not. But the club has to be able to get up and say, no, we've got to do this for the future. And whether it's our grandkids or the next member in, we've got to pass this thing. And so, by having the data, I think that it allows the clubs to posture for a sports bar setting is a great example. 30% of consumers want that in terms of their food and beverage operation. Wine tasting and travel, those kind of clubs within the club are all things that can be manufactured very easily with manpower and a little bit of capital. So if they're going to spend $10 million on a capital improvement and renovation and enhancements. Take the data and use it to your benefit. So that way you're investing in the right things for that current Gen Xer who's going to be a member at some point.
Mm-hmm.
Looking for a crash course on everything you need to know to market your club online? We've created a 30-page essential guide to digital marketing for private clubs that you don't want to miss. From optimizing your website and developing relevant content to engaging your audience through social media, this comprehensive guide will lead you through every essential step you want to be taking to effectively market your club online. Download it now at storytellermn.com/guide.
Jason, what do you see being some of the significant changes that will impact your business, say, in the next 5 years?
Well, to be honest, from a technology standpoint, that's what we're focused on right now. We believe that we've created an environment that it's really only one in the world that connects consumers to clubs, and to take that proof of concept that has really gone through the roof and build an even enhanced environment where consumers can communicate and talk to not only private clubs, but maybe a realtor who specializes in a private club community as well, and just facilitate that void or that gap that exists between the consumer and the club industry. So that way, from the consumer side, they're able to make a confident decision that where they bought, they feel really good about. And for the club to be able to bring in not just any member, not just any friend of a member, but someone that's going to be loyal and happy, which, as anybody listening out there today knows, attrition is everything. And if you can cut that even 0.5% a year, the club can save a couple $100,000 in a lot of aggravation, because the last thing you want is unhappy members. That's for sure.
Yeah. You mentioned a couple times the golf communities. Is Golf Life Navigators primarily associated with golf communities, or do you see equally the private club that doesn't have a residential arm
Oh,
to
sure.
it? Yeah.
Yeah, no, these all clubs are kind of comprised in our algorithm, whether they have real estate attached or not. The clubs that don't have real estate attached are a little bit more kind of behind in terms of getting lead generation, because with the amount of people that want to parlay their real estate with the club search, it's kind of hard if the club doesn't have real estate component to it. So that said, by being in the algorithm, and if a consumer is clicking that real estate is not an important factor to them, or they want to live outside a gated community, they got a really good chance of getting matched up to that person, whereas that consumer might not have ever found them online. So it gives a whole new opportunity to any club, whether they're semi-private, real estate driven, developer driven, or resort.
That's really interesting. You talk about the prospective member being more savvy, and I'm sitting here as you're talking, Jason. I'm wondering. I'm thinking, okay, so is someone who looks at Golf Life Navigators the person who says, "Oh my gosh, this is so much easier than me doing a Google search into a market, trying to find clubs, looking at their websites." I mean, going through that process. Has that person done that routine, or are they just like, "Gosh, someone tell me about a buddy of mine told me about this, and I'm just going to go directly to this website because I don't want to have to go through. I don't know how to use the internet, or I'm not savvy enough."
Sure. Yeah, I'm going to be very transparent and open with you here on the communication that I get back from consumers throughout this process. There's two things that gives a lot of anxiety to a consumer. Let's just say up in Michigan, who's getting ready to come down. They can reach out to perhaps a real estate agent in Florida. We'll use that as an example. Mm-hmm. There's already already anxiety that real estate agent is going to push me into a property that they might have a listing on, or it's not the right for me. And so, do I want to pick up the phone and call that agent? And 9 times out of 10, the answer is no. I don't want to do that. On the other side, from the club side, consumers are saying calling the club is really no different than calling a car dealership, that they're going to want to just bring me down, put me into something, and see if they can sell me. And for the consumer, they don't want to go through that experience at all either. you and I would probably agree, going and buying a new car is a dreadful experience.
Right.
So, and again, that's not my opinion. That's just what the transparency of the consumers are saying. So, if we as an industry can get around that somehow, and us at GLN can offer this tool that can introduce consumers to the right clubs and the right agents, and it completely changes the comfortability and the dynamics of that conversation. There's already a trust factor there. The consumer is excited that this is their best match club. I don't have any doubts now. And then for the club, you know that you're not getting a tire kicker. This is someone that's made for your culture,
Yeah.
and your conversion rate should be significantly higher than a typical internet lead.
Yeah. All right. So I'm going to give you a softball here because you and I are on the same page with this. So
Mm-hmm.
as a listener, I apologize in advance, but for some of you, no, only because, I've had a lot of conversations with club managers, club marketers, and things like that. And, we've talked about the idea of being more transparent with your initiation fees, with your monthly dues.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of clubs don't like that idea. And we're of the belief that, you can gate that information if you choose to.
Mm-hmm.
But the idea is, and you just said this, and so many people believe that, no, I want to get them in here. But as consumers, we don't want that. We want to do our own research. We want to look around. We want to collect the information that we want, so we can make a decision. And when we're ready, we'll typically go, whether it's buy a car or join a club. That's usually the way that works today. And
Sure.
from what you had found, would you say that that's discriminatory based upon age? Like, are younger people more likely to do that than someone who's 58 or older?
No, what I'm seeing is that all consumers that are using our services, in particular, the feedback that they're giving to us are very, I don't want to say on edge or leery or anything like that. It's just time is such an important factor to anybody, all of us these days. And if they go to a club and they didn't get all the information up front, and they spend 3 or 4 hours there and then find out that the dues are 16 grand a year, and it's way over their budget, then they just wasted that time they could have experienced at another club that would have been the right fit. Then from the club side is, you only want to be able to put those resources to host that individual to the ones that have a really good chance of joining. So it'd behoove you to just get that information up front. That's for sure.
Right. All right. So let's talk about, if as a club manager listening, this is really cool. What do I need to know as a club manager about the relationship with Golf Life Navigators? How do I, what are some, maybe some specifics that you can leave them with so they know, have a clearer picture about what that relationship looks like and how you're onboarded to Golf Life Navigators?
Sure. So we understand and appreciate the exclusivity factor, and that's the way that a lot of the clubs were built upon. That's the way that a lot of the boards at these clubs still consider themselves today, is we're exclusive. We don't do any advertising or marketing, and members bring us members, et cetera, or referrals. However, that doesn't work if you're trying to establish a pipeline. And back to the beginning of how savvy consumers are, we have to create environments to perhaps connect those individuals to the private clubs. So as a club manager who is sensitive to the fact that you have to remain exclusive, this is a great model to do that, because your club would never be exposed to someone that wasn't the right fit for it.
Mm-hmm.
Once you're in the algorithm, you're only matched up to those that are the right fit. And so from there, the membership director could, filter those matched people on their own to determine if they truly are indeed the right fit for the club.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's a big one in relations to the whole exclusivity,
mm-hmm.
Angle with us.
Super important. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But if I'm listening, I'm like, gosh, I just heard Jason Becker and this is unbelievable. I want to be a part of this. What do they do? What are the steps they need to take to get their club on board with you guys?
Sure. A couple things. Number one, obviously, give us a call. Our website, golflifenavigators.com, has all of our contact information on there. I would even suggest that you go and take a pro guide and see if your club gets matched up. And 99% of the time, that's what clubs do. And they call us and say, I'm shocked. I can't believe that just happened. I put in all that information and my club came up number 1, 2, or 3.
Mhm.
And so it goes, I'm a big believer in just let me show you how it works. I don't want to just explain it to you, show you. So feel free to definitely take a pro guide. It's free. It's free for consumers. We um, put together that pricing model because we didn't want a consumer to say, you know what, for $35, I'll figure it out on my own. It was
Right.
much easier to allow it to be complimentary to the consumer, have them invest 12 minutes of their time to complete it, get matched up to the clubs. And in terms of our pricing for the model, right now it's $2,400 for the year, and once you're in, it works 24/7, 365. So you don't have to worry about creating flyers and other marketing materials. You just fill out the link to get your club into the algorithm, and you're done. And the membership director and club officials will be getting matched up to leads every day and throughout the night. So
Is there a cost per lead?
no, no, no. It's just a subscription model, just like you would have for any other marketing expense. You can invest into the technology, and for $2,400, and away you go.
All right. So I just want to be clear. This is not a podcast where we promote people's products typically. $2,400, Jason, that's nothing.
Yeah, like we talked about in the beginning, the club industry thinks very differently. One would say, they're a little bit behind the times in terms of how other organizations are growing these days. And so when I come up with this virtual platform that's kind of progressive in nature for lead generation, it caught a lot of people by surprise. And they're like, prove it to me. I don't believe that works. I don't believe that a 50 or 8-year-old will go and use the internet to search for a private club. And we've proven that. And so we wanted to keep it at a price point that is not something that's going to break the club's budget. It's something that for them for a year is certainly worth a try to get. You get one new member out of that deal, and your ROI is tenfold.
Oh my gosh, it's incredible. That's
Mm-hmm.
really cool.
Mm-hmm.
So Jason, for people that want to learn more, your website is the best place to go, I'm assuming.
Yeah, or my cell phone. I'm going to give you my direct line here. It's 239-292-9929, and happy to take a call, talk trends, data analytics, tell you more about the program. It's exciting on our end, and we're happy to share it with the club industry and be a significant piece to the evolution of the club industry.
All right, let's give them your phone number one more time.
239-292-9929.
Okay. And online, you're at golflifenavigators.com. Is that correct?
That's right. Yeah.
Awesome. Jason Becker, thanks so much for spending time with us and for sharing some really interesting information, not only about what you're doing as a business, but I think some of the information you've been able to glean from the people who have signed up to use your service and to get the pro guide. It's pretty cool stuff.
Thank you. I really appreciate the time. It's nice to talk to others that are just really believe in technology and progressive thinking.
Yeah, awesome. Well, best of luck to you, and look forward to talking to you again sometime.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
Thanks for listening to this week's episode of Crushing Club Marketing, sponsored by Storyteller Media and Communications. Next up, you'll hear from Kristen LeCount, the Assistant General Manager at the Country Club in Brookline, Massachusetts. Hear how her team has reorganized their entire communication strategy to address growing online engagement, and how she got the whole team on board with this new way of marketing.